It's been quite a week on the premier current affairs show on radio, Deep Dive on Capital 100.4 FM with Rumbidzai Venge.
But the one thing that we cannot stop doing is conceptualizing, is thinking, is growing, and even sitting down and doing nothing is something. Somebody said that to me once.
The Deep Dive with Rumbidzai Venge, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 9 p.m. The premier current affairs show on radio.
Capital. And we'll be looking a lot at children and youth issues. My guest is already holding on in the wings. He is blessed Nhodza. Keep the messages coming in. I definitely will acknowledge them. Let me get to our program. Sakamkoma blessed vari popa line and it is. So I was saying November is Global Action Month. November is also November to recognize men's health and men's issues, but it also is set aside as Global Action Month, and we want to raise awareness on children's rights and the environment. Joining me in the conversation is blessed Nhodza. He is team leader for Kwekwe Youth in Action, and this is a youth-led organization which is seeking to improve the health and well-being of children and youths, and he's also a development and communications consultant. Blessed, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Venge. I'm doing good and I'm loving the weather this side of town.
Right. Yeah. It was getting very hot, so it's been well received. I hope you have an umbrella or new wipers on your car, one of the two.
Of course, definitely.
Well, it's such a pleasure to have you on the program as we are looking at the month of November as an important issue, as an important platform to discuss important issues. So environmental issues are some of the issues that we want to talk about. And many people don't see the link between, things like climate change and just upsets in the environment causing, several knock-on effects. We're talking about, environmental issues driving child marriages, teen pregnancies, and we want to get into, how we can start to unpack some of these issues. So, Blessed, tell us a little bit about Global Action Month. Why is it so significant for young people around the world, and why is it important for us as Zimbabwe to observe it?
Beautiful. So this is the month, and I'm here to today's training, which is the significance of why we're speaking about this month. We want to raise awareness and inspire action around how children's rights can be affected by environmental issues. We also want young children and young people to take charge of their rights. When we always preach rights, we also want to preach responsibilities. So we are raising awareness on the rights and also encouraging young people to be responsibilities when they're exercising their rights. So this also brings to the limelight issues of child protection, issues of social justice, as we seek to ensure that we are building future generations of Zimbabwe and beyond that have an environment that is sustainable.
Blessed, talking about, sustainable environments and, even our sustainable development goals, look at environmental, action plans and some of the environmental effects that we're seeing, droughts, famine, a decrease in yield, etc. For someone who might not understand the link between environmental rights and, children's rights and youth rights, perhaps you could make the connection for us. How do they link?
Okay, that's beautiful. So I'm going to take children's rights to education, right? And today it's raining. What comes to mind is issues to do with access to umbrellas or new wipers, as you are saying. Another issue that comes is issues to do with drainages. Our drainage is open enough to allow water to run off so that our children have got safer roads to go to school. So if we consider issues like just drainages only, then it hinders children's access to education. They becomes the link. But issues to do with poverty, for example, where sometimes we tend to then say because we've got a drought, maybe to go tombombera kuendesa vana chikoro pasina chekudya tombotwara mari dzamasisi tombokava chikafu vanhu vese vanhu vodya. And we're trying to make sure that people environmental issues like drought, issues of rain. My cyclones come, you know what happened with cyclones, right? At a time without our schools being rebuilt and education never now is being affected. What happens to their social protection programs and that we have covered those issues. So it's not going to right, but then if you also consider the environment in which the rights are being exercised, is it allowing, is it enabling? Hence we are saying this November, let's look at our environment and let's raise awareness on children's rights.
I love that you're really giving focus and emphasizing, that we need to talk about children's rights, and there are so many. You talked about education. You talked about. I also want to talk about issues of like child labor. Izvo zvekuti vanorima ndiani vana mwana ari kurima hasi kuenda kuchikoro. Maybe you're too tired, you can't even concentrate in class. There are also issues around poverty. I think you looked into them. So what role then do our parents, our communities, the schools, and maybe even organizations like yourselves play in promoting children's rights throughout the month of November as part of Global Action Month focus and beyond?
Yeah, that's beautiful. So firstly, the role goes to the children and young people themselves. They have to take charge of they have to take part in different campaigns. For example, the Presidential Cleanup Initiative, where every first Friday of the month we go and take part. Tomorrow we actually encourage young people to go out in their numbers in different parts of the country to take part in the cleanup campaign, so that my environment, my responsibility. But this is not a one-sided issue. We also need a buy-in from our parents to encourage us and also to take note of that. I was happy you were speaking to the issues around the Harare budget and the national budget conversations happening. We also need to see our community leaders, our MPs, our councillors also looking into say how much money is being budgeted when it comes to environmental issues, be it responding to disasters, responding to drought. We also goes to our parliament. Then we also need policies that speak to the issues of climate change. We just not policies that are good to see, but we also want the policies to be implemented. And apart from that, we have got civil society organizations, youth organizations like us, where we raise awareness, we build up the agency at the voice of young people to speak for themselves, and also other organizations like the network of young children, young people who also come together. They support with organizations like us to raise awareness, to speak to young people, call upon our community leaders to show some action or some solidarity during this month.
The responsibility, and I agree with you, lies first with the youths, the children themselves, isn't it? But it seems that there's a lot of apathy. Young people are just not interested, or they're just unaware of their rights. What can be done to make these rights more accessible and understandable?
Okay, that's beautiful. So we utilize different programs, radio programs like this one, to make sure that we share the different rights that are enshrined within our constitution. Also have the African Children's Center that also speaks to the rights of children, the UNCRC. So make sure that these documents, as technical as they are, we take them down into fun-friendly and youth-friendly version. But apart from that, we cannot only talk about rights and not talk about responsibilities. Sometimes we're not doing our work as organizations, sometimes we need to misunderstandings with parents and say, hey, you're right now. So also make sure that when we talk about issues and rights to our fellow people, we also talk about responsibilities. Of course, you've got a right to play, but you can go and play with doing your teaching, doing your homework. So also speak to rights and also speak to responsibilities.
where there's a right, there's a responsibility. Definitely an important, takeaway there. If you're just joining us, this is the Capital Forum, and we are talking all about November as Global Action Month, and we're raising awareness on children's rights and environmental issues. And just looking at the link, maybe for you, you've never had to go, tema uni, you've never had to worry about where you're going to get water, but for some, and children in particular, when things are not well with the environment, it's a driver for them to then be deprived of their rights. And in this discussion, we want to talk about, ending a lot of these issues, promoting children's rights in their entirety, and bringing you on board in terms of the conversation. Anzina blessed zvikunzi vana vane marights akawandisa vachateereri ndizvo here nai saka toita sei kuti vabereki vanzwisise kuti aiwa kodzero ka mutemo, and we are supposed to afford our children all these things. This is what we're doing throughout Global Action Month, and hoping that you can join us in this, in this campaign and beyond. Blessed, let's take a look at some of the main goals or themes being highlighted during this month. Is there, a running theme, and what is it?
Okay, so for this month specifically, we are looking at children's rights. We can do away with that, and environmental protection. So this year was being highlighted this year, as you know, different conference of parties happening, agreements are signed, but what is then happening on the ground? So in terms of environmental protection, mostly this issue speaks to the deforestation that is happening, land degradation. So some of those things are human-driven, they're also driven by us. So we are saying, to get deforestation, we are going to start having young girls walking long distance just to look for firewood. The same happens with water. In the morning, a girl from Slovenia down there in Kwekwe wakes up early in the morning to look for water down like 4 or 5 kilometers to the nearest door, simply because we are not protecting our environment, we are not protecting our water resources. Hence, we are saying this year is children's rights, it's environmental protection. You and me, we can make a better life for our children and for our young people, ensuring that the future generations to come can celebrate the time of our existence. And also linked to that is saying that by addressing these issues, we can tackle social issues like, for example, something that is so close to my heart, issues around child marriages and teen pregnancy. Sometime around last 2-3 months back, we were doing some advocacy meetings around Zimbabwe with Young People's Network, and some parents were saying, because of poverty, because of drought, which is climate related, Mangongo akametiswa even considering anamiliki. Chikiri I aende kumurume, and you're asking the parents, why would you say that? Again, I was struggling to take care of Mangongo Ariwan, because none of our children. So because of poverty that is driven by issues to do with climate change, parents would ask, but and if you check most of those cases, Venge is not domestic violence, Venge is child abuse. So this is a simple issue, poverty. So if we don't talk about climate change, sharing that no problems, and quickly, teen pregnancies, child marriages are manifested because any root cause is actually raise awareness on this month of November.
Hey, and it's so sad. I don't understand, Guti. Solution yekurodza mwana, and also there are criminal implications. So I hope that you're also making that very clear in your advocacy work. We also want to just understand a little more around pollution. There are several man-made factors. Mining. They are then just pumping back all the waste and contaminated pollutants into water by the villagers, just as an example. How are you addressing issues of pollution? How are you also empowering other people in these communities, to take up environmental stewardship? When things are happening to your environment that could harm you and your family?
That's beautiful. Thanks so much for bringing that issue. I'm sure you had the issue come on Nhodza, Kwekwe, continuing nature, the fish issues that coming up. So mostly what we do is social behavior change. We believe that should someone over time behavior is change. Nanto motangachira samarara, but knowing that you can't just throw litter everywhere. Animals are not direct in our environment. We need to keep our environment clean. Issues are not high for that. When I come up now because of the environment. And also, change begins at home. Sometimes you say that you go around the school. Also try and check that could be the system. Which litter is placed everywhere. So it becomes a big route. I cannot place litter everywhere. Issues of pollution, here mostly in Harare, we use my bowls for our drinking water. Like it's one of the cleanest sources for our water in Harare. And thinking of what is now rainy season is the water that we're drinking from small bowls or rather from our body, that's clean enough, especially for our children. So we also partner with different organizations like the Environmental Management Agency and our local authorities so that we raise awareness. And also the issue of enforcement of environmental laws is not that strict. To perform what now fire extinguisher can achieve and definitely you're going to have struggle with the police. But when it comes to issues like littering, burning litter everywhere, you see even in town in Harare, and at early morning or late evening, you see smoke all over and enforcement of the law really a bit. But affect us even as adults, but mostly our children, because which is some stages of growing up and sustainability. Many can't litter everywhere, the nearest bin. But I'm also happy of different companies and what you donate to our beings, making sure that our environment is clean and especially in the pollution that you raise, that also affect our drinking water. There are areas where there is low sewage and now it's raining. Just becomes a disaster. So we'll also be looking at that, discussing that with different community leaders, that you and me mostly can bring the change that we want to see.
That's quite powerful. And just digging a bit deeper, in your view, Blessed, how can young people, start to hold leaders, policymakers accountable for the protection of their rights? You talked about enforcement. Let's talk about that, accountability. How can young people start to say, you know what, I have this right. You are not, facilitating it for me. As a result,
That's beautiful. So maybe what we do is Kwekwe mentioned together with our partners, and network of children, young people's trust. We build the voice and agents of young people. We train young people on leadership. We train young people and children on advocacy. We also capacitate the junior parliament and the junior councils. So I say your first point of call is the leaders within the community. That includes your Muslim at church. How much power those people hold in church. So issues like this could be brought up to the system to then say, you parents, when you are at home, poverty, the first thing that you cannot do is to cut on school fees because you need to take care of this. Also is our policymakers, our councillors and our MPs. Those are the people that have been chosen by us. They are representing us. So we also engage, utilize the children and young people to speak for themselves, engage their councillors. So sometimes we create a platform ourselves, but rather sometimes when you want to do those meetings, issues of stadiums coming to place, so saying let's just go to the councillor residents in our locality, let's engage them, because what we want to see can be effected by them. And sometimes we also try and do peer-to-peer education, the young people themselves speaking to each other so that the information reaches everywhere. But in terms of the enforcement, we might need to continue making our inroads with the Environmental Management Agency to strengthen on the enforcement, because the laws are there, if you litter, you can be fined. But in terms of the enforcement, so we young people, we come, we ask our city fathers, this is what is affecting us, can something be done about this? I think key to that is monitoring, because sometimes when you go and engage We enjoy, we laugh, but in terms of implementation, so we also be encouraging young people, when you engage these leaders, also monitor after 2-3 months, go break. There was a council sitting where the issue presented before the mayor and whoever is in charge of action that is very ending in that. So yeah, that's how young people can do that, and we make sure that we train them, we keep them with the information, and they take charge of the change they want to see.
They are part of the process. Nothing for us without us, really coming through in your approach there. And I'm happy that Mimi, the young people, you have to be part of it. You have to understand that you have to take an active role in all things, in holding duty bearers accountable. And when you look at climate change, Blessed, I was just looking at the very sad hurricane or the very sad situation for Jamaica and Caribbean islands with Hurricane Melissa. And there's a report that's saying that it was 6 times more likely to have been caused by climate change, a world weather attribution study has found. So we might be thinking, it's very far-fetched, but look at things like that happening.
So it is indeed really sad, and Jamaica could be far, but not so far because of climate change that is coming. So I think this also speaks to the issues around how our leaders could speak to our disaster risk reduction plans or our response plans and say, are the plans adequately resourced? We have a good structure, the civil protection unit. They also have the resources to respond to that. Mostly when disasters like this happen, it's children and young people who are affected mostly. A simple, strong wind comes, adults can withstand, but the children are most vulnerable.
Really sad, and of course, just heartfelt sympathies going out to Jamaica, Haiti, and all those affected by Hurricane Melissa. But Bless does make some good points, and it might be far, but not so far. We have a responsibility to look after our environment and be proactive in protecting it throughout Global Action Month. We're opening up to our listeners now. The numbers are 0719 100 404. You want to call into the studio? I would be happy to hear from you on 0772 269 229 or 0772 269 241. It is the Capital Forum, and we are shining a light on the month of November, for it is where we observe Global Action Month, the whole month. We're raising awareness on children's rights and environmental protection. My guest is Development and Communications Consultant, Blessed Nhodza, and we're really getting into it here. It's 5 minutes before we get to the news at 8. But all right, I'm seeing some messages here. So Blessed, this one is from Ernest Flower, who says, Vana vanoda dzidziso yakasimba between abuse and responsibilities. Hanzi zvakafanana nekuti kuita maduties epamba zvinobatsira ramangwana rake mwana. It's not abuse. What's your comment on this one? Andonyaya mambotaura yekuti hanzi marights anenge ari kuwandisa. But even in understanding something like that, unpaid care work, machores anopiwa mwana pamba, at what point do we draw the line and say, this is now child labor? It's no longer machores to make me a responsible person. Pamba ndakutotimba guide us on that one. What do you think of the sentiments shared here? The difference between your responsibilities at home, your chores, and child abuse.
Okay, that's beautiful. So let me start by saying, whenever we come across like this, we solve the case on a case-by-case basis. We also take into the issues around how does the household look like, what are the income levels like. But whenever we are doing this, we make sure that the rights of children are recognized and respected. Because what we want to do is we want the best interest of the child to come through. But let me also bring you to an issue that is now coming up, which we are now saying we are now doing what we call positive parenting or parent-to-child communication. The world is changing. Makuriro makaita nini vana vengi atakaita zvisina kuita vanina vangu because zvachinja. You see a 5-year-old apona achishina aripo ipapo. And we're also teaching our parents how then do you engage Because we can move this up a phone pass which are not reading that could be an issue. So when you're doing our positive parenting or our child-parent communication, things are not could bring out a way you could but I also like to take from the Bible that says she could this year. So sometimes but we need to catch them young watching what we could sometimes I lack of a better word and the spoiled bread. Sometimes those also to make that happen. So it's because as a parent, you know what 1 hour could say from the beginning. Or someone else moving some shows are grade 7 to prepare some of my classes, but also trying to make sure that people engage, let's do it in a positive way, promote a good thing. Because the one of the negative change it is, but all in all, it's on a case by case basis. So we want to make sure that the rights are protected. At the same time, we're also contributing to the family. But then lastly is the issues around neglect. You know how our parents are so busy, because of climate change. Like work extra to because you know a lot of things are happening. Sometimes parents may so be encouraging that they could see, all right, maybe no one was some people. But during a time, just the first 30 minutes with your kids, you talk about these issues. Your responsibility is to learn who pass out and to catch your right to play a tumble from 3 to 4 to hospital and wake you also come up and because you so also be trying to create that balance between promoting the right and just ensuring that we are becoming responsible citizens as children and young people.
I like that approach, and I think it could be useful. Ernest, I hope, as you know, place of fast running out of time. As we bring the conversation to a close, what message would you like to leave with our listeners around the importance of Global Action Month? What message maybe, just to continue to raise awareness and not ignore environmental crises and how they impact on our children's futures?
That's beautiful. So I think we are past the time of ignoring the environmental crisis, as it also compromises our health and our rights. And a simple issue could be because of pollution, radium, contaminated. The next thing is to touch on. And funny enough, Maria Mama Hachingeta Mumbai, so if we ignore these issues, they will still come back on us and also affect the running of our household. If we stay safe, we clean our environment, we look after them, we are doing away with diseases that also takes away our money from our pocket. But I think as we are getting to the next segment around the budget issue, please also ask the guests how the budget is speaking to child rights and to the environment. How do the Senate Parliament and speak to it on our next session?
Definitely. Thanks so much, Blessed. It's a good place to end the conversation. A pleasure as always. Have yourself a good night, and thanks so much for your time and valuable insights on Global Action Month and what we need to do to protect our children and our environment. Thanks so much. Good night.
It's been quite a week on the premier current affairs show on radio, Deep Dive on Capital 100.4 FM with Rumbidzai Venge.
But the one thing that we cannot stop doing is conceptualizing, is thinking, is growing, and even sitting down and doing nothing is something. Somebody said that to me once.
The Deep Dive with Rumbidzai Venge, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 9 p.m. The premier current affairs show on radio.
Capitalk.